Hello and welcome to Big Deal. Now, India's digital revolution is driving a five-fold increase in the data center capacity expansion. Now, the demand for data centers is transforming India's digital infrastructure with growth seen across the country, not just in urban areas. Now, the rise in the adoption of internet services, smartphones, social media, and OTT channels is really fueling the demand for data centers. Now, over the next 30 minutes, we assess whether India's data center capacity will meet the nation's growing digital demand. Joining me to discuss this further are Vivek Dahiya of Cushman and Wakefield, Sunil Gupta, the managing partner and CEO of Yotta Infrastructure, Nikhil, the founder and CEO of Werks, Iron Mountain, and Manoj Paul, the MD of Equinix India. Gentlemen, so good to have you on CNBC-TV18. First to Vivek, your company and you have authored a very detailed report on the demand for data centers. Get us the highlights and where we stand when it comes to the needs of India's digital revolution when it comes to data center infrastructure.
Yes, thank you, Nisha. Top 5 points from our study. We're noticing that we are building more, absorbing more. We're adding about 250 megawatts of new supply year on year, which will become close to 450 megawatt of fresh supply being added year on year for the next 5 years. This will take us, as per current estimates, to about 3x from the current 1 gigawatt that we have. We'll go to about 3 gigawatt. But our study, our research suggests that we have the potential as a country to probably even go to 5x. 3x is a lot. It's a good growth, but the country probably needs 5x. That's the gist of our report. Now, there are a lot of tailwinds which are ensuring it. We are one of the cheapest places to construct data centers. We have abundant power. We're a power surplus country. There is more and more power coming up. We have cheap power compared to a lot of other locations in the world, and we have a lot of green power. Specifically on green power, the upcoming supply that we have, close to 50 to 60% of new stock being added in the power generation capacity is green power, which is again one of the cheapest in the world, which is very rare. And finally, all of our estimates that we've done in our research that came out earlier today is still not taking into account the impact of AI on data centers. That's still very new, and we expect that only to make the growth and demand even increase further from our current estimates.
All right, so that's the sum and substance of that report, and we'll delve into the details of the sector and also the findings of the report over the next 30 minutes. Now, Manoj, Equinix is a global large company. You have set up base in India. What's your strategy in India, and how do you see India as a potential market?
Thanks, Nisha, for inviting me on your show. Well, Equinix India strategy is in line with what Equinix is doing across the globe, and we follow our customers. So for their digital growth and their digital success, they need the infrastructure to be able to support the digital services. And first and foremost requirement is reliable co-location services. So we operate 260 plus data centers across the globe at a reliability of 6 nines. So our customers now have access to all these data centers across the globe, and they can expand their digital presence to any of these metros, which is 71 metros over 33 countries. And now with the presence of the platform in India, the enterprise customers in India can also grow their presence and cater to customers around the globe. Our customers also said that, hey, we not only need co-location services, but we also need efficient interconnection, because that is what is very, very critical for the success of any digital service that is offered to end customers. So they need high efficient interconnectivity to cloud, initially a single cloud and then multiple cloud services. And that's what we provide on our Equinix Fabric platform, where on a single port, they can connect to multiple cloud. We also, customers say that, hey, I need flexibility. I want to use services on a tap. That means I should be able to fire a service anytime, and I should be able to increase the bandwidth, downgrade the bandwidth anytime I want, because I'm not sure about my requirements. That's what we offer to our customers, that, hey, they can go to Equinix customer portal, wire a new link to say AWS or Google or Microsoft, increase the bandwidth from 1 gig and 10 gig and all that. And that is what we are doing now in India. Nisha, we are investing in new data center in Mumbai and in Chennai, and all these services. The Equinix platform will now be soon, is already available in Mumbai and will soon be expanded to Chennai.
Right. So you're expanding, but what about the homegrown companies? Let me take it to Sunil first from Yotta. Sunil, we spoke a few years back first when data centers came in vogue. People were starting to understand this infrastructure space. Where have we reached, and how do you see the growth potential for an homegrown company?
I think overall, as Vivek said in the starting, there is a huge upside. If I just use the metric, US with its 17,000 megawatt of data center capacity with its population versus India's about 1,200 megawatt of data center capacity for its population of 1.4 billion. In terms of the metric of megawatt per million population, US is 52 times more than India. So if we feel, which we are as a country, that we are as digitally enabled to the grassroots level, there is no reason why we should not have as much backbone capacity to support our digital need. So while we all are like giving kudos to ourselves that we have built like 6 times more capacity compared to where we were in 2013-14, India still has a much way to go, and AI load is coming on the top of what we were thinking so far.
Yes.
When we are building this market to such a large level, the size of the pie is big, and every single operator, whether it is a global operator like Equinix coming in and building capacities here to serve their global customers for their Indian workloads, or whether it is Indian companies like Werks of Nikhil or myself, Yotta, and other operators, we all will have to contribute our respective bits in creating large campuses, large capacities, and of course, building the layer of services on the top of that.
Right. So a lot needs to be done in this particular sector, still nascent in India. Nikhil, what are your thoughts? Where does India stand? Give us a global versus India perspective also. How do you see it as a homegrown company and an entrepreneur?
It's been 27 years that I've been watching our digital movement in India. Frankly, we are miles behind. I won't say miles, I think we're eons behind, I think, the United States. We've got a lot of catch up to do. Data centers are basically where our digital highways run. So think of us as the heartbeat where, the digital highways, your connected assets, your digital assets, and how they actually work, they all run within that data center. Smart everything, smart cars, smart devices, everything runs from there. Even companies' competitiveness are defined by how digitally effective they are. And that's, again, with AI coming in, that demand is there. With this kind of needs that are coming in, I think we're way behind. I think we need to really put in a lot more effort to grow our data center capacity, because America is doing that. I mean, United States is doing that. And if you put it that way, India has actually always been the stretching country. We stretch 4G, we stretch 3G to its limits. Nowhere else do we stretch technology as much as, and we actually put it to full use. So I think keeping that in mind, even in data centers, we're going to see a lot more movement and a lot more action, because there's enough space and there's enough space to grow. Because we stretch the phone networks, we're going to stretch the data centers, and we're probably going to need more and more and more data centers. So in short, our lifestyles, everything depends on it. And with a growing, middle class and a growing population, which is becoming more affluent, this is the need of the hour, and we have to grow. There is no looking back. There's only looking forward. If you see the report and what Vivek also said and my industry colleagues also said, I think we have miles to go, and we have a lot of runway and a lot of catch up to do to the United States and other developing countries.
Right. So, Vivek, how are we going to catch up? And the demand for a large market like India, where the penetration of digital revolution is happening at a very fast pace, and a very large smartphone market as well, where 5G has just been rolled out. How do you see all these points coming together and creating a very large demand? And what are the technical factors which are required to be known to drive this market forward, Vivek? What are the findings of the report which will point out on whether we have the gumption of really fueling our own demand?
Yes, thank you, Nisha. Now, I'll first talk about the methodology that we used in our report. We can slice the pie in many ways. The demand assessment for data center is a very vast exercise. We decided to focus only on one part of it, which is the digital parameters, compare that of India with the rest of the world. And we looked at a lot of digital parameters. Finally, we narrowed down to the internet penetration in the country and how much is the mobile data that we are consuming, all of us in the country. We can, by the way, do this based on cloud penetration. We can do this based on AI and a lot of other elements. For this particular study, we focused on these two approaches. And then we compared what Indian digital benchmarks are vis-a-vis, let's say, countries within Asia Pacific, China or Indonesia. And we also compared it with the Western economies, which are far more mature, as Nikhil was explaining. And after bringing out with those ratios, we extrapolated them. Then, for example, just to reach, forget about US, just to reach the population versus internet penetration or mobile capacity of a China and the amount of data centers that they have, how much would we need to build more? And China has been a very ideal benchmark for us to use. And the numbers that we see, which is 1.7 to 3 odd gigawatt, which adds up to over and above what we are already building. Both the approaches, in our opinion, are very conservative. There is more, as everybody else on the panel mentioned, there is much more that India can build. And when the AI wave hits our shores, all these numbers will look tiny compared to what the demand eventually would come in. So all the factors point towards a very long runway for India to keep investing in this asset class, keep building, and the demand will keep coming towards our cities.
Manoj, jump in on this. Given your global view on this particular sector, India has very small capacity. But the growth potential is huge. Give us a sense on India versus global when you see the characteristics as well as the potential. Manoj, you're mute.
Well, sorry. Nisha, others have already pointed out, especially with Vivek, as far as numbers are concerned, we are fine. We are far behind. What we do is that we check where the customers are going and when the demand is growing. In India today, 60 to 70% of the data center capacity is being consumed by hyperscalers. So we need to see how they are growing and where they are growing. And there should be some capacity buildup required to satisfy the need of these hyperscalers. Now, the focus has to be on the remaining 40% of the enterprises. What is their requirement? How is that requirement going to change? How much is that going to grow? And we might need a different type of data center build and ecosystem build to cater to that requirement. And we see these two requirements quite differently. We have different vehicles to cater to these requirements. And we see that the hyperscalers will continue to grow both for cloud services and also for AI services. AI deployment by enterprises will lag a bit because they are going to continue to use cloud for the initial AI trials and rollouts. And later on, we see a big deployment by enterprises as far as their AI inferencing is concerned, because they might use the cloud for learning and training, but they might have their own inferencing, and that is going to be big, and that is going to be highly distributed. That needs to be closer to the end customer. That needs to be interconnected with different carriers and different service providers, and that is going to be a big requirement that is going to come up maybe 2 or 3 years down the line in other parts of the world, and maybe a couple of years here and there in India also. And we are getting up, working up with partners, working closely with end customers to see how we prepare ourselves, because the data center build is going to be very different for inferencing, very different for learning, training, and even for inferencing also. There are requirements for 10 kilowatt per cabinet, or even 300 or more than 150 kilowatt per cabinet. How do we build data centers which can cater to this wide spectrum of requirement. How
Yes.
do we build data centers, start thinking of data centers today, which will go RFS in 3 years down the line, by when the requirement might change totally? These are some of the challenges which many data center service providers have to go through and make investments.
Right, very well pointed out. But the impression of the word AI in our discussion is way more than data centers. So we'll explore more of AI-led demand, which has been excluded, as Vivek pointed out, from the report. So we'll explore that. And also, if the requirement is huge, who's going to fund it and what are the key trends in future? We'll explore all of that after a very short break on Big Deal. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Big Deal, and we are discussing the scope, size, and potential of data centers in India. Now, Sunil, we were discussing AI-led demand. Now, you're one of the few companies which has secured NVIDIA chips. And of course, that's a transaction, that's a differentiated vertical, but definitely ties in with the data and digital revolution in the country. So how do you assess the AI-led demand at the current moment, and at what stage are we?
So, Nisha, if we see from a worldwide point of view, with the way, while AI was there in our, I would say, corporate enterprise and government life for a couple of years, but it has come into consumer life with the advent of ChatGPT last April, and everybody has started going about it. The whole narrative in India also has suddenly changed about, and a realization coming in the right circles that while India may be a software and services leader across the world, 11% of the IT exports across the world are done by India. But AI is one thing which is still IT, but India has lagged behind compared to many of the developed worlds. And that is where, so while rest of the world, if we go by some of the reports, even by hyperscalers, which they are saying that as much capacity the world has made for cloud and the other enterprise workloads till date, as
Yes.
much capacity of data center will be required just to handle the today's and upcoming AI workload. So it is going to be huge. Now, this is at a global scale. If it is happening somewhere else in the world, and again, if we take India as not only a huge AI market as a consumer of AI product, but also as a supplier of data sets and also the skill sets, there is no reason to believe that India also will not face the same phenomena of having to build a huge data center infrastructure to build the AI products, models, and applications for its own need, and also to act as a garage for rest of the world. So
right.
I can see that, I think, coming in right now, because while on one side, we are waiting for hyperscalers to get their chips allocation, and whatever they are getting right now, they are deploying in their mature market like a US. But India has skill sets, India
Yes.
has startups, but India does not have this infrastructure. And that is where we took the call.
Yes.
Last year, when Jensen, who was the co-founder of, the founder of NVIDIA, came and met Prime Minister,
Yes.
the discussion around this only, that how India can become a leader in AI technology also for its own.
Sunil, we know the next war is going to be for the chip, securing chip. That's
Absolutely.
what the word on the street is. Nikhil, all this is going to be fueled by capital. There have to be investments, foreign funds to really fuel our digital infrastructure as well. You're one of the few companies which has secured funding. How is the landscape looking, and investor appetite as well as perspective on India? Very quickly.
Yeah. So we've secured 150 million from Iron Mountain a couple of years ago. So we went from about a megawatt to 150 megawatts of potential and about 22 megawatts of fitted out. But while we thought that was enough a year and a half back, I think now we're thinking 500 megawatts and beyond. So having experienced an international investor coming in, so we basically, they're a 26 billion company. They bring in, global experience. We, have local expertise. What we've seen, right, and I'll come back to the capital. See, AI, one who controls AI controls the future, right? It's like a space race. AI is another race,
Sure.
and China's doing their own thing. But data centers are fundamental to that, right? So capital is very critical. We as a country are competing not against China, not against anyone else, but actually against the United States in terms of the capital flow. Because right now the United States, you can read the report, and the way it looks like the United States will be more than maybe 1,000 gigawatt market. Deals getting struck over there are in the range of 300 megawatts, 400 megawatts every few months, every couple of months, right? So we need capital, right? And that capital right now has to decide whether it goes to the United States or it comes to us. So for that, I think what we have from the government is basically non-fiscal incentives. What we probably look at is government providing fiscal incentives, because this is a critical area. Just like we spend on defense, you need to probably spend on digital infrastructure, because that is your highway, right? You want planes landing in the middle of the road right? Same way you need data centers to be there so that you're digitally independent. So having said that, I think there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of capital which is interested in APAC. As of right now, the funds that are looking at APAC are generally APAC-centric funds. The global funds have priority more. What we see is more towards the United States and less towards APAC. Because naturally, when you're doing a 300, 400, 500 megawatt deal in the US every quarter or every 2 months, that kind of deals are not happening over here. That's what we.
So Nikhil, so the government support is very important, and they also need to make the sector far more attractive for international investors to come and fuel our growth. But Manoj, sustainability is a key issue here. When it comes to cost parameters, on the other hand, the huge energy requirement, the kind of shift we are seeing towards green data centers and the water consumption, all this put together and sustainability thrust. How do you see and assess India, as well as how do you see the challenges here?
That's a very pertinent question, and that is what is going to hamper or going to accentuate growth of India in the data center front, because there are other countries who also are facing a lot of challenges as far as availability of power and green power is concerned, and India is lucky to that extent. And we heard in the beginning that India has energy, which is green energy, which is cheaper than maybe anywhere else in the world. So as far as India is concerned, the power should make a clean differentiator for us. And if we can combine solar with wind and other things, so that we can have some good component of green power available for the AI revolution, then we can differentiate it. Because it's not only a question of building data centers, but also it's a question of why would global investment come to India, how they feel that they are going to be benefited by deploying in India is the question. And that includes green power is one part of it, good networks, reliable networks. Weather also makes a lot of difference, because if you have green power, if you have little cheaper power also, but if the POE is higher, it just takes away all the benefit of having lower power costs in the country. So these are multiple things, Nisha, which is going to really determine. And I believe the focus will continue to be in US as far as AI deployment is concerned for some time, but sooner or later it will shift to countries like India.
Right. So let me assure you, Manoj, that some of the largest conglomerates with deep pockets are building the infrastructure when it comes to the renewable energy space as well. So the whole ecosystem of sectors of the future has to develop together to really combine with each other and combine the strengths for fueling the growth for India in this particular space. But thank you so much for all your insights on data centers in India. Vivek, Sunil, Nikhil, Manoj, thanks so much for joining us right here on CNBC TV 18. With that, it's a wrap on the show. Thanks so much.